Sandy Koufax is widely regarded as one of the greatest baseball pitchers of all time, but his legendary career was also marked by controversies, including his early struggles, religious beliefs, and rumors about his sexuality. Before we dive in any further, please take a moment to subscribe to the channel. Oh, and do not forget to hit that like button. Koufax's decision not to pitch on Yom Kippur in 1965 is one of the most talked about moments in the history of sports, and for good reason. At the time, it wasn't just a personal choice, it was a bold statement about the importance of faith and personal values, even in the world of professional sports. Koufax was supposed to pitch Game 1 of the 1965 World Series, but Yom Kippur, the holiest day in the Jewish calendar, fell on that day. Rather than playing, he chose to observe the day of fasting and reflection. This decision sparked a heated debate. Some critics were quick to accuse him of putting his religious beliefs ahead of the team's needs. After all, this was the World Series, the biggest stage in baseball, and Koufax was one of the Dodgers' best pitchers. To some, it seemed like a risky choice that could potentially cost his team the championship. There were even people who questioned whether a professional athlete at the peak of his career should make such a personal sacrifice, especially at such an important moment. But others saw Koufax's decision in a completely different light. They admired his courage to stand by his beliefs, even in the face of pressure and criticism. For many, Koufax's choice was a powerful example of staying true to one's principles. No matter what, he wasn't just a great pitcher. He was a role model who showed that there's more to life than fame or success in sports. Koufax's early years in Major League Baseball were far from the legendary success he would later achieve. In fact, those first few seasons were filled with inconsistency, frustration, and even a sense of disillusionment with the game. Koufax joined the Brooklyn Dodgers in 1955, but it wasn't until much later that he became the dominant pitcher everyone knows today. In the early stages of his career, Koufax was a raw talent but struggled to find his rhythm on the mound. He bounced between starting and relieving, never really being given a clear role. The Dodgers seemed unsure of how best to use him, and that lack of direction led to a lot of frustration. Koufax was a pitcher with enormous potential, but he didn't always show the kind of consistency that would make him a star. Things were tough for Koufax during this time. He was struggling to live up to the expectations placed on him, and the Dodgers management didn't seem to know how to harness his true potential. On top of that, he was dealing with self-doubt and the pressure of trying to prove himself in the big leagues. In 1960, after another rough season, Koufax seriously considered quitting baseball altogether. He felt that he had been mismanaged and underutilized, and it seemed like the dream of becoming a great pitcher might never come true. That year, Koufax even began to question whether he had what it took to succeed. He was thinking of walking away from the game, leaving behind his dreams of pitching greatness. But what happened next was nothing short of a turning point. Koufax made the decision to stick it out despite the doubts. He started to focus more on refining his pitching, particularly his curveball, which would go on to become one of the most devastating in baseball history. This period of struggle, though not a controversy in the traditional sense, is key to understanding the true depth of Koufax's story. Koufax's personal life, especially his relationships, has always sparked curiosity. Despite his remarkable career, he's remained a very private person, and that includes when it comes to his romantic life. Koufax had a well-known relationship with actress Deborah Fonda in the 1960s, which drew some attention at the time. He was also briefly married to Anne Widmark, the daughter of actor Richard Widmark. But beyond these relationships, Koufax has always been incredibly tight-lipped about his personal life, and for good reason. Throughout his career, rumors about Koufax's sexuality have been a persistent undercurrent. In an age where athletes and public figures often felt the pressure to conform to societal expectations, Koufax's quiet nature only fueled speculation. However, rather than acknowledging or addressing these rumors, Koufax simply chose to remain silent, focusing instead on his pitching and his personal privacy. It's easy to forget, but in Koufax's prime, the media and public often had a tendency to scrutinize the private lives of athletes and celebrities, sometimes more than their professional achievements. While some of his contemporaries may have faced similar speculation, Koufax took a different route. He simply didn't engage with it. He never publicly discussed the rumors or tried to clarify any aspects of his personal life. For him, his sexuality was not anyone's business but his own. This quiet stance is part of what makes Koufax so intriguing. In an era where many celebrities and athletes were expected to speak out on everything, Koufax's choice to stay private about personal matters set him apart. It wasn't about creating controversy or being mysterious. He just valued his privacy, and more importantly, he didn't let outside noise affect his career or who he was as a person. Koufax was born Sanford Braun on December 30th, 1935 in Brooklyn, New York, to a Jewish Jewish family, he later adopted his stepfather, Irving Koufax's name. As a kid, Sandy was more into basketball than baseball. He was actually a standout on his high school basketball team, even dunking on the New York Knicks in a preseason game, but baseball eventually took over. He joined his high school team as a first baseman, but his strong throwing arm caught the attention of Milt Laurie, a local coach, who encouraged him to try pitching. Soon after, Sandy was pitching for a local team in the Coney Island Sports League. After high school, Koufax went to the University of Cincinnati, initially as a walk-on for the basketball team. But when he overheard the basketball coach also coaching the college baseball team, Sandy decided to try out for baseball too. He made the team, and by the end of the season, he was a promising young pitcher with 51 strikeouts in just 32 innings. While pitching for the University of Cincinnati, Sandy Koufax started catching the attention of baseball scouts. Bill Zinser, a scout for the Brooklyn Dodgers, filed a glowing report about him, but it seemed to get lost in the shuffle. Meanwhile, Gene Bonnie Beau, a scout for the New York Giants, saw Koufax in a Cincinnati newspaper and invited him for a tryout at the Polo Grounds. Nervous and wild, Koufax's performance wasn't great, and the Giants never got back to him. The next summer, Koufax pitched regularly for a local team, the Parkview. That's when he really started to impress. Pittsburgh Pirates scout Ed McCarrick saw him pitch in a few Sandlot games and was blown away. After a tryout with the Pirates, general manager Branch Rickey famously said, "This is the greatest arm I've ever seen," though the Pirates didn't offer him a contract until after he had already committed to another team. The Dodgers were paying attention too. Al Campanis, a scout for the Dodgers, heard about Koufax from a local sports writer and arranged a tryout at Ebbets Field. When Koufax started throwing, Campanis was so stunned by his fastball that he said, "The hair on my arm stood up." After the tryout, Koufax and his father negotiated a contract with the Dodgers, $6,000 salary and a $14,000 signing bonus, a deal that would allow Sandy to finish college if his baseball career didn't work out. Koufax also got offers from the Milwaukee Braves and the Pirates, but he stuck with the Dodgers, signing with them on December 14, 1954. In his 12 seasons in Major League Baseball, Sandy Koufax built a career that's nothing short of legendary. He finished with a 165-87 record, a 2.76 ERA, and an incredible 2,396 strikeouts. He wasn't just a strikeout machine, he also recorded 137 complete games and 40 shutouts. But what really set Koufax apart were his incredible numbers in a few key areas. For one, he was the first pitcher in history to average fewer than 7 hits allowed per 9 innings. He also became the first to strike out more than 9 batters per 9 innings, retiring with more strikeouts than innings pitched. These were groundbreaking stats that helped define his dominance on the mound. Koufax's Cy Young Awards are a big part of his legacy. He was the first pitcher to win the award 3 times, an impressive feat, especially since only one Cy Young was awarded for both leagues at the time. He also made history by winning the award by unanimous vote, something he did twice. Koufax's strikeout numbers were legendary too. He was the first pitcher to have 2 games with 18 or more strikeouts, and the first to have 8 games with 15-plus strikeouts. He set a record with 97 games where he struck out at least 10 batters, though that record now ranks 6th all-time. From 1957 to 1966, batters hit just 203 against him, and he dominated with an incredible 271 on-base percentage and 3 out of 15 slugging percentage during that stretch. He also set a major league record by winning 5 consecutive ERA titles, a feat no other pitcher has matched. On top of that, he led the majors in WHIP 4 times and 5/6 times, both records in their own right. Koufax was not just a regular season beast, he was a true big-game pitcher. His performance in World Series games is legendary. While his overall World Series record is 4-3, his 0.95 ERA and 2 World Series MVP awards speak for themselves. Even in the 3 losses, he only allowed 1 earned run in each game, and in 2 of those, the Dodgers were shut out by the opposing pitchers. He also set a then record with 22 consecutive scoreless innings in the World Series, which is still one of the longest streaks in postseason history. Koufax's dominance didn't go unnoticed by the fans either. He was selected as an All-Star for 6 consecutive years and made 7 appearances out of 8 possible All-Star games during that stretch. In fact, he was the winning pitcher in the 1965 All-Star Game and started the 1966 All-Star Game, pitching 3 strong innings on just 2 days rest. Koufax was a true power pitcher, known for his incredible velocity and precision on the mound. His pitching style was unique, with a very pronounced straight over-the-top arm motion that made him stand out. Most of his speed came from his strong legs and back, which he used to create a high leg kick during his windup. He also had a long, smooth extension toward home plate when releasing the ball, giving his pitches a sharp, almost effortless look. On top of that, Koufax had unusually large hands, which helped him put a ton of spin on the ball, controlling how it broke and making his pitches even more deadly. Despite his reserved, shy personality off the field, Koufax was a fierce competitor once he stepped onto the mound. He once pushed back against the gentle competitor label people often gave him, saying, "It sure as hell isn't gentle, especially playing the game." Koufax wasn't the type to intimidate batters with headhunting pitches like his teammate Don Drysdale, but he wasn't afraid to pitch inside or brush back a batter. He believed in using fear to his advantage, once saying, "The art of pitching is instilling fear." Koufax's success came from his mastery of just two main pitches. His four-seam fastball was known for its incredible rise, or hop, as it reached the batter. This illusion of rising was thanks to the heavy backspin Koufax put on the ball by pulling on the seams as he threw. But it was his curveball that became legendary. Spun with his middle finger and thrown with his straight over-the-top arm action, Koufax's curve would drop sharply, 12 to 24 inches, making it nearly impossible for batters to track. In fact, many consider it the best curveball of all time. While Koufax did have a changeup in his arsenal, he didn't throw it much. Later in his career, he switched things up, using a forkball more often as a third pitch. His teammate, shortstop Roy McMillan, even said it had a movement similar to a spitball, which made it even more difficult for batters to pick up. And as he got older and his fastball lost a bit of its zip, Koufax adapted by adding a cutter to his repertoire, a pitch that helped him remain dominant even as his velocity decreased. Koufax's career wasn't just legendary on the field, it was also celebrated in a way that few athletes experience. In 1972, just 1 year after retiring, he was elected to the Baseball Hall of Fame in his very first year of eligibility. At just 36 years old, he became the youngest player ever elected to the Hall, beating Lou Gehrig's record by just a few months. Not only did Koufax set a new mark for being the youngest inductee, but he also became the second Jewish player ever elected, following Hank Greenberg, who was inducted in 1956. Koufax's impact on the Dodgers and baseball was also marked by a big honor in 1972. The team retired his number 32, joining other Dodgers legends like Roy Campanella and Jackie Robinson. That's a pretty exclusive club. Then in 2022, the Dodgers unveiled a statue of Koufax at Dodger Stadium, placed right next to the one of his former teammate, Jackie Robinson. But the recognition didn't stop there. In 1999, the Sporting News ranked Koufax 26 on their list of baseball's 100 greatest players. He was also named to the Major League Baseball All-Century team that same year. A few years later, in 2020, The Athletic ranked him Yarj 70 on their Baseball 100 list. Koufax's legendary status has only grown over time. In 2015, MLB fans voted him one of the 4 greatest living players, alongside legends like Willie Mays, Hank Aaron, and Johnny Bench. As part of the celebrations for the 2015 All-Star Game, Koufax threw the ceremonial first pitch to Bench, standing in front of the mound to deliver it. Imagine the chills in the stadium. Koufax's place in Los Angeles history is cemented as well. In 2022, the Sporting News named him to their Los Angeles Mount Rushmore of sports, alongside iconic figures like Magic Johnson, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, and Kobe Bryant. Sports writer Scott Miller called him Los Angeles' first baseball icon, noting how Koufax just embodied that laid-back California cool without even trying. And when it comes to the Dodgers, Koufax is a giant. In 2022, MLB.com writers voted him the greatest player in the franchise's history, just ahead of the legendary Jackie Robinson. The comparison between the two is striking. Robinson broke barriers for race and civil rights, while Koufax defined what it means to be the ultimate pitcher. Both changed the game in their own way, but it's clear that Koufax's numbers and impact on the mound are unmatched, even by the standards of a franchise rich with history. All these honors show how Koufax's influence went beyond just the games he played. He became a symbol of excellence, perseverance, and quiet strength, a true legend who remains at the heart of baseball history. Well, that brings us to the end of today's video. Make sure to subscribe to Baseball Icons so that you never miss an update.